You're watching a special broadcast of the violent crime that's taking place in KwaZulu-Natal, and in the recent past we have seen confrontations between the police and criminals who seem to not fear a battle with the police. A little earlier, I had a conversation with the leader of POPCRU in the province. POPCRU is a police union. They represent the rights of police officers, and they are raising some serious questions about police being safe whilst in the line of duty. At the same time, there is the question of suicide when it comes to the mental health of police officers. So, who better to answer some of these troubling questions than the leader of the police in KwaZulu-Natal, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, is my guest right now. General, good evening to you, and thank you very much for your time. Let's start with the violent crime that we are seeing in KwaZulu-Natal. The statistics say 18 people are murdered in KZN on a daily basis. Are you winning the war against violent crime?
Yeah, well, it's a challenging one. It's challenging in the sense that there are a lot of incidents that are happening behind closed doors. And there are many factors that are contributing to incidents of this nature, which I think society at large, not only in KZN, but generally in South Africa, it seems like that Ubuntu is no more there. People just don't care about another person's life. They fight over petty things. Could be fighting over someone step on somebody's toes, and they start fighting. And that physical fight ends up deadly, because the one who gets beaten, people laugh at that one, and then he goes home and he comes back with a knife and he kills a person. We see with school children. We see it with families that fight over love triangle issues, and then we see with hardened criminals that get involved in criminal activities of robberies. Yeah. They try to hijack you. If you resist, they kill you.
Your members, are they up to the task when we talk about criminals now who are armed and ready to confront or to go into battle with the police? Are your members up to the task?
Yeah, well, we try to prepare members as much as we can. We still believe that we still have a long way to sharpen our skills, because we don't want to lose a single member. It's certain that KZN is still leading with a number of police officers that are getting killed on duty.
How many a day?
Not per day, but over time, you get police officers going to be killed, on average, perhaps sometimes on a monthly basis, sometimes every second month. We are going to be in Union Building next month, on the 2nd of September. It's the first Sunday of every year. First Sunday of September, we go to Union Building to commemorate the members that will have lost during the course of, while they perform their duties during the period of a financial year. So we will be there to commemorate those members as well. So we suffer a lot, members that are being killed. So if we were on top of our game, we're not going to lose one. We could be talking about at least criminals being the only one dying. But unfortunately, because we're in a war, we also have casualties.
The ratio between your experienced members versus the ones who are still new, who between the two do you seem to be losing the most?
We tend to use a lot of young ones by a rank, because it is them that are on the field. When I say young ones, I'm talking about non-commissioned officers, those that are in the lower ranks in the police. They are the ones that you're losing the most, because they are the ones that are on the forefront in the fight against crime. And in the majority, it is those that are wearing uniform, because it is them that are patrolling, it's them that are confronting criminals most of the time. The detectives, to some degree, they are not as badly affected. The intelligence, they are not as badly affected. But we do lose them from time to time. Yeah. We've lost a TPCI member not a long time ago during the heist operation. So it does happen at times. But the ratio, it's more of the junior members that we are losing.
Yeah. Psychologically, how are they coping with this violent province?
It's a difficult one. It's a difficult one when the police officer, every time when he leaves home, the families are not aware whether the person is going to come back or is going to be, lying in a hospital injured or is going to be in a mortuary. And that puts so much strain because that goodbye kiss to your family member as you leave in the morning to your child, it leaves you wonder whether you're going to see the child again when you come back. So that increases the stress level to the police. It becomes worse when they are engaged in a gun battle because the moment they shoot someone, they're left with the trauma and it affects us. So that member that gets involved in that incident, we have to withdraw that member from operations while he's debrief and he's undergoing counseling and the likes. So we become one member less on the street.
Yeah.
So it's not something that we celebrate when it happens.
Can I just quickly pick up on that? Because I hope I'm not going to get into trouble for asking the question this way, but in the African culture, when you have been involved in a fight with another human being and that person dies through your hands, there would need to be a cleansing ceremony, so to speak. In a professional environment, how do those officers who would have been out policing the streets and they meet a heist situation where a number of suspected criminals are gunned down, how do those police officers, how are they debriefed and psychologically prepared so that they are going back not as killing machines, but as police officers who understand that there are laws that govern what kind of force or the amount of force that you're supposed to use against a person who may be armed?
Yeah, well, it's a difficult one. We have professions in the police. We are an organization that is almost 200,000 strong of personnel, 200,000 in the country. Not exactly. I think maybe 180 or somewhere thousand employees that we have. So it's different professions we have in the organization. And some of the expertise we have in the police are psychologists, trained psychologists. We have social workers, and then we have spiritual service within the organization. So they're all responsible for performing those spiritual work, those counseling, psychological debriefing and the likes. And of course, with our medical support, which is POLMED, the medical scheme of the police, they are able to provide us assistance with private consultation that will, if a member feels comfortable to engage a private psychologist, for instance, they are able to pay for that because it's something that will have happened when the member is on duty, so it needs to be counseled. So some of us, I'm sitting here today, I've been exposed to many of those for many years. A lot of shooting incidents, my very first job did not shoot anyone. I happened to arrive at the crime scene when there was a dead body in the water. You have to assist the forensic people by fetching that person from the water, and the body is decomposed. And you grab the hand by trying to pull that person out of the water. Next thing, you pull the whole hand. And so it was a traumatic experience. I was hardly a few months at work. And so I had to be debriefed. So it's something that happens all the time. Then you come back again, you confront another situation, and you go back again for another session, and you continue. So that's the life of a police officer. It's a calling.
The criminality in the province, Commissioner, is such that we are reading reports that police officers sometimes get followed to their homes and they are targeted if they happen to be investigating certain cases. What is the modus operandi of criminals in the province as far as them wanting to threaten police officers? Has the situation gotten so bad that police officers are followed home and taken out?
Yeah, well, we're not experiencing that as much in our province. there's been incidents, for instance, like that much talked about case of a kennel in Cape Town that we lost as a result of such action. It's not a common thing that happens in our province. Not to say that the members don't get threatened, but they don't go to that extent of following them home and the likes. However, criminals will find a way of believing that if they were to assassinate a particular member, they believe that the case will go away, forgetting that the case docket does not belong to a police officer, it belongs to the state. So when a member is no more, another one picks up that case docket and continues. The case doesn't die. When you steal a case docket, we already have copies of them. It's part of our procedure. When we make a case docket, we keep copies. So that one is stolen, we get another one. So because of that, I think some of the criminals start realizing that dealing with an investigating officer is not necessarily much of a solution, although they try to interfere, but their interference that we experience the most in our province, it's corruption, it's bribery. They try to buy those police officers in order to mess up the case docket so that there's no successful prosecution. Yeah. So that's what they do the most. They come with money instead of threatening them.
I'd like to change tack a little bit and talk about sometimes the criticism against you and your officers, that you are heavy-handed and there is an understanding that you are dealing with very violent criminals who are not afraid to confront law enforcement officers. But how do you respond to that criticism, that you meeting fire with fire is something that may potentially get you into trouble with the law, or specifically those officers?
Well, it's a difficult thing to argue with someone who calls himself an expert on the field and yet he doesn't know anything. So if I were to debate you about journalism, I'll look like a fool, because I have no slightest idea what it takes for you to put this whole production together. An operation of the police is better known by a police officer. Even myself being here, having worked in so many years in many high-risk environments, with experience I have, but I cannot judge police officers that were involved in an accident somewhere until I hear from those police officers what transpired. So it is just unfortunate that we get people that claim to be expert. Now, I do not know how many experts are there in football, except those that are playing football. But how many people sit behind the mic like then they call themselves expert by just analyzing the game and talking about, they don't know how to kick the ball. So it's the same thing we see in the police. It seems like a police becoming a profession that is taken for granted, that everyone believes that the right way of policing is this and the right way of policing is that. And we want to welcome all of them. Anyone that has an opinion or a suggestion to make, they know how to get hold of us. If they don't know, go to a nearest police station, invite Mkhwanazi to sit down with you, and then we can lecture you on how we do business. And if we have operations, perhaps we want to volunteer as a reservist, come and join us so that you can go kick doors and approach those hardened criminals. We put you in front, and then you lead us in terms of tackling that criminal. Then perhaps you'll come out there differently, and you'll start preaching a different gospel. So it becomes difficult for us to argue with them. So we're not type of people that are good in finding a space in front of television and talk about it. We're going to be out there in the street and serving the society that is in trouble, that has been held hostage, and they appreciate us.
Yeah. There are those who then bring a bad name to the police badge. And talking about those, there were officers where you had to help a civilian, a businessman. That story is very public. And you had to direct that person to go to a mall just so he could save his own life. And part of what saved him was that he had an armored vehicle. Those police officers are now going through a court case. How do you deal with elements within your force that are bringing a bad name whilst you are trying to build a good name, and part of that is making sure that you have the confidence of the community as you continue to do your work?
Yeah, well, it's a difficult one. Unfortunately, we're a law enforcement agency as a South African Police Service, and therefore we must respect the law. So for every employee that we have is within the South African Police Service protected by the labor law as well. So however, whatever the member will have done, how bad it is, we cannot be emotional about it. We'll have to treat that member in line with what the law dictates. So in such instance, for instance, you're talking about, it will require us to institute disciplinary procedure, which entails conducting an investigation, giving notice to the members that we're investigating, and noticing them of possible transfer or suspension. And subsequent to that, they don't make presentation, and then we effect the suspensions. And there will be disciplinary procedure that follows, where they must be subjected to disciplinary hearing, where matters get to be argued like you'll do in court. And if they are found to have grossly violated the code of conduct of the organization, they can either be given a suspension for a month or two, or a dismissal. So that's what the organization can do internally. But if they do criminal activities, and of course, our team makes sure that we thoroughly investigate case dockets and we send them to court, and hoping that the court will come with the sentence that is relevant to the offense that they will have committed. So in this case, when police officers does things like the one you are referring to, we rely on our colleagues, our counterpart, which are also under the same Ministry of Police, which is IPID. So it is them that will be conducting such investigations. So we have to work around those parameters, or regardless of how bad, how damaged our name is about the action of those members.
And I'm bringing up this example of officers who are bringing a bad name to the force. Having had a conversation earlier this month with members of Abahlali baseMjondolo, who are saying that police officers are so deep in criminality in this province that they do not want to take cases to the police station. They are the ones who are defeating the ends of justice by ensuring that these cases do not even get to court. How many of those elements have you dealt with, if at all?
Yeah, look, I wouldn't know a specific case that that organization is talking about. But if there are such instances that there is criminal activities or there is a misconduct, members that have broken the code, we institute disciplinary steps. I can safely say that in this year alone, starting from April until now, we have dismissed at least over 50 police officers from the service. Quite a number of them are undergoing disciplinary procedures as we speak for things that they will have done that is violating the code, the oath of office they've taken in the organization. So the case specific for Abahlali baseMjondolo, if they feel that there are cases that they will want to report, but they don't trust the police, they don't want to report those cases, I will then encourage them to seek another platform. If they feel they don't trust the police and there's police criminality, they must go to IPID. IPID is there for that purpose. Because the moment you feel the police have done wrong, and the IPID does have a section that allows them to initiate an investigation, not only because of the act of criminality that perhaps happened during the course of duty, they can initiate such investigation, IPID. So I'll invite them to do that. Yeah. But having said that, we must also always guard against some institutions that will be coming out public and complain about criminality, because then you need to ask yourself a question: are they clean? We talk about the problem we have in this province, by and large, the number of informal settlements that we have in Mjondolo that you're talking about in this province, in this district specific, it's, if we were to compare what we had 30 years ago, it's no longer the same. So there you have to understand, how did Mjondolo became so many? It is the business. A business that was started by individuals who are not staying there. The next time you meet them, you ask them to show their address. And if they can take you to their houses where they stay in those shacks, they don't stay there. But they are collecting money from there because they design those shacks for the poor to come and rent. And they go on the other side to be fighting for the poor. And they are manipulating them. So someday when one retires, you will invite me, we'll sit like this, and we'll get into dialogue with people.
Commissioner, final question to you. How do you instill confidence in a member of the public who says, I have lost confidence in not just the police, the courts, the criminal justice system, and there are those communities that decide that because police are clearly of no help to me anymore, or of no help to us, we are simply going to get into what is called mob justice. Do you think that that day will ever come here? I haven't seen reports like that. You are a man who seems to be leading a very effective force. But how would you answer a law-abiding citizen who says, I don't trust the police?
I'm not encouraging people to be communicating all over, but there's only one South African police service under one leader, which is the National Commissioner. For those people who feel that they have been hard done by a police station closer to where they live, they've got these 180,000 employees who majority of them are hardworking, who are ready to serve. Whether you are in the Northern Cape and you feel you have lost hope in the entire police of Northern Cape, you have the right to call the police outside Northern Cape for help. You can phone the National Commissioners directly. You can get hold of us. We don't work strictly in KZN alone. The National Commissioner can send us to the Eastern Cape to go and assist if there's something happening there, because we want South African Police Service that can work across the country. So people must just know that if you feel discouraged by those that are close to you, leave them. Demand through different structures. You've got community policing forum structures who can say we don't want to work with this management in this station or these police officers in this station. And therefore management must do something about it to replace and rotate and bring others in that space that communities can trust. And if because it is provided for, if communities really feel that the organization is not helping and they've done introspection or interrogation in terms of what are the causative factors perhaps that makes a police not to assist them in a manner they want to be assisted, they can approach their representative that are there elected by them in Parliament to be able to then be their mouthpiece in changing the things in the organization or in government in general, because quite a lot of things clearly that are not known, perhaps that makes people unhappy, is the legislation that is out there. You know, we always talk about it. You arrest a person. Once a person is in custody, he lives a better life than when he's outside.
Commissioner, you repeating the very words that you said a little earlier, that perhaps something needs to be done about the laws in this country, particularly when it comes to people who have done wrong and are supposed to pay for their crimes. But thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed.